Good morning and Happy New Year to you. This is the last Sunday in our year together, and what a Sunday series it's been. We've been focusing on the theme, sowing seeds of greatness, with each month looking at different seeds to sow. This is a month of peace and forgiveness and so on, and I've been reviewing it and thinking what a wonderful year we've had together, and I look forward to seeing what all this sowing yields as a crop in the years to come. That's going to be wonderful. And the topic for today is things to come, and it's related to the theme of peace. And I refer you to the book we've been reading together, A New Design for Living, because this particular chapter, talking about things to come, is really talking about life after life, and how each one of us have to discover our own a way to think about life after life. We don't mess with people's concept. We encourage each other to explore it, though. And it's a beautiful chapter. But I want to talk about something more immediate. When I read the title, Things to Come, I thought about next year. I want to talk about that because we're right in the process of designing the new theme for 2013, and I wanted to share a little bit about that with you. And begin with a well-known humorous story, a joke, that includes a tourist in New York asking somebody on the street the question, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? And of course, you've probably heard the humorous response. The answer is practice, practice, practice. Yeah. If you want to get on the stage, you need to practice. And that story, it's gone through many versions. And when asked, some people say it's just a made-up story with a nameless musician on the street. Others say, no, it's an actual conversation that took place with the famous violinist Heifetz. And other people say, no, it was actually the pianist Rubinstein. So it doesn't really matter who it was, because the advice is good. No matter what it is you're talking about, practice, practice, practice is indeed the answer to how do you get to Carnegie Hall? How do you get to where you're going? How do you get there? Whether you're learning to play a musical instrument, or you're fine-tuning a certain talent or a spiritual practice or a skill, it's the same thing. It's through regular, consistent practice that we develop a deep and enduring relationship with the technique that we are learning about, whether it's an instrument or a spiritual practice. Now, our founder, Ernest Holmes, in our textbook, The Science of Mind, he speaks to this matter very specifically and somewhat humorously too. Here is the first slide from page 51 of the textbook. Won't you read it with me? One of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. As a matter of fact, we only know as much as we can prove by actual demonstration. That which we cannot prove may or may not be true. But that which we can prove certainly must be and is the truth. Well, that's clear enough. And he describes the problem of our culture. Too much yakking and not enough doing. You know, I went to a school for musicians. I was very fortunate. This school, high school, allowed students to focus on music instead of taking the regular subjects that high school students take. So I got to learn about music in ways that were fascinating to me, and I found very quickly I loved the theory of music. I loved it. I loved learning about harmony and counterpoint and the history of music. And I went through a period of not wanting to practice. And I noticed that all of the theory in the world couldn't make me play an instrument. Yeah, right? There it is, right there. And other students were having an experience of the music while I was becoming very smart. And I noticed that I could explain to people why a certain chord followed another chord more naturally and more logically, whereas other students couldn't necessarily. And although they couldn't explain it, they could play it because they were practicing. They were becoming adept at demonstrating music. I was becoming adept at explaining it. Have I made my point? Let me just say it a different way. You and I can talk about what a flute player might or might not be able to do, or we could talk about what a guitarist can accomplish and play or not accomplish and play, but until we pick up the instrument, we don't really know what we're talking about. A couple of years ago, I was interviewed by a reporter from the Press Democrat about New Year's resolutions. And I was remembering that interview because it's that time of year, and different people in the article were expressing their opinions about New Year's resolutions. And I said at the time that New Year's resolutions that are made kind of in reaction, in the hubbub of the season, don't usually work out that well for me. Because they're reactive, they're theoretical. They don't come from a practice. In fact, my best resolutions have come at unpredictable times, not at the beginning of the year. In fact, if I force resolutions at the beginning of the year, I seem to have less success with them than I do with those resolutions that come out of a regular, sustained practice. So I find that if I spend time regularly in personal reflection, something starts to percolate. If I've got this practice on an ongoing basis, slowly an awareness emerges in me that says, do something, change something, quit something, learn something, and very often I have no control over it because it is an external expression of an internal embodiment. But without the practice, then I make up ideas about how I want my life to be. Now, personal reflection is one of those practices. Call it meditation, call it inquiry, whatever you want to call it. It's something that I can talk about. But until I actually do it, I don't really know what I'm talking about. And when I do it, the shift in consciousness is what produces the result. So it seems to me that these resolutions sneak up on me when I have a practice in place. In a beautiful way, they then become an experience, not a theory anymore, an embodied change. First, the consciousness changes through practice, then the habit or the change follows to match the consciousness. And I was remembering in the interview, I said to the reporter that the trick, it seems for me, is to have regular personal time scheduled for me to do those moments of reflection so the resolve can be witnessed. There's the trick for me. Regular, structured, scheduled time. Doesn't that sound like practice? Practice. So the theme for 2013 is just that. A year of spiritual practice. Practice. He goes on to say in the textbook, and here's the next slide. Read this with me, won't you? It is easy enough to rush about shouting that there are no sick people, but this will never heal those who appear to be sick. It is easy to proclaim that there are no needy. Anyone can say this, whether she be wise or otherwise. If we are to prove such statements to be facts in our experience, we shall be compelled to do more than announce a principle, no matter how true it may be. Clear enough, right? Say it in a different way. What we teach here is pretty easy to understand, but to live it. It's easy enough to say, focus on the affirmative, but to live that every day. It's easy enough to say, we are one. But to express that in a conversation about politics. Yeah, the theory and the playing of the instrument must meet somewhere. So in 2013, we are focusing on a year of spiritual practices, starting in January with spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer, which is a form of prayer that is unique to New Thought traditions. It's a formula for expressing and directing the spiritual energy of creation in a direction of your choice. And it's a formula that anybody can learn to use so that they can pray in this way for themselves or for others. And of course, the direction that prayer is used for, is focused on, must first be in harmony with the greater good or the will of God, as we say. Which brings up the question, well, how do I know what the greater good is or what the will of God is? So, each month we're going to be learning about spiritual tools that will help us connect with that. Discover and explore what is the greater good, what is the will of Creator. So, for example, in February, because it's the month of Lent in the Catholic world, we're going to use as a spiritual practice, spiritual fasting, which is to us the voluntarily withdrawing from group mind chatter that takes us down. Voluntarily withdrawing from reactive thinking so that the wisdom of the ages can be heard, can be identified, can be recognized. 30 days of withdrawing, wow. Then in March, the practice is meditation. We're going to have a month of practicing how to adopt the attitude of being receptive to this divine wisdom. Now that I've identified it, now know what to look for, let me dwell on it. Let me dwell in it. Let me consider its urgings. Let it inform me. And to support you, especially if you are not able to enroll for one of the classes that we offer because of your schedule, we will be providing free support material for each month's chosen practice. And we're going to set aside time on the first Wednesday of each month at the evening service at 7 p.m. to launch that month's particular practice, to explain it, to talk about it, and to distribute free resource material for you to take home to guide yourself through the whole month. For example, as I said, in January, it's a 30-day prayer commitment where we will be invited to pray for our community. We'll receive a brochure that we can follow along with. In February, it's a new look at Lent. We're going to be invited to give up certain things mentally for good, for the good. And there's a booklet to carry around. In March, there's a booklet about different forms of meditation for you to track your progress and your response. April is about forgiveness. May is about gratitude. June is about journaling, and so it goes, concluding in December, where the spiritual practice is retreat, and you'll receive a do-it-yourself personal guide to create your own retreat experience without having to leave the country. Right? So although we will be launching each of these months and the practice associated on the first Wednesday evening, those of you who are not able to attend that first Wednesday evening service, for you we will make the resource material in the booklet available for download from our website so that you can get it anyway, and we'll also, I think, be able to put it in our bookstore. But I still hope you will be able to make a date to be with us on the first Wednesday like this one coming, because we'll be able to give it special time and focus together. By the way, about the one that starts in January, about affirmative prayer, we will be invited to participate, as I said, on a 30-day prayer commitment. And in the little trifold brochure you get, there is a guide inviting each person to pray together on a variety of different subjects related to the community you live in. So there's a checkbox so you can keep track. On day 1, it's water quality. On day 2, it's the school system. Day 3, it's the elected leadership, and so on. So if you participate, we'll literally be on the same page. And there's such momentum in that. Now that's more than thinking about it. That's doing it. Now, a side comment. You'll notice that in this practice, all of the subjects for prayer are other people and other things, not self. Here's a little-known secret about prayer. In times of trouble, when you're struggling and need help, pray for other people. Something wonderful stirs up in that. So if you accept this challenge, I fully expect you to have wonderful feelings of well-being by the end of the 30 days. I expect you to be high as a kite at the end of the month. Now, for those people to whom this form of prayer is something brand new, we have on our website a resource called the Online Affirmative Prayer Library. So if you go to our website, www.cslsr.org, under the Support tab, there's a link to our Affirmative Prayer Library. And during the month of January, we will have a featured spiritual mind treatment that is associated with each selected topic of the month. And the purpose of that is during the 30 days, you'll be able to go there, read the example to stimulate your own prayer creation. You could even print it out and read it out loud as a way of becoming familiar with the words of affirmative prayer in your own mouth. You see, because if you just think about it, then when it comes time to do it, you can't do it. So you begin by borrowing somebody else's words and you put them in your mouth, right? And then you go, oh, I can do this. And then it stimulates creativity. So that's what happens. So you can read it to be expanded, become familiar with it, until you are comfortable doing your own. So I wanted to give you an example of what you will find at the Affirmative Prayer Library on our site. And I brought one along with me, and here it is. And by the way, all of these slides are available on our website too, under Files for You. Every Sunday when we have stuff up here, we make it available also. So this particular one is for harmony in relationships. I thought some people might enjoy that. So let's read it together just to get the feeling. There is one infinite loving presence that is at the center of life itself. Deep within and all around all that exists, this loving presence guides and informs life with its powerful wisdom. Harmony is its nature. All of life responds to the warmth of its love. It is the love of this divine presence that lives its life through me, through each of us. I am, we are, love, wisdom, and harmony, finding its full expression. I declare that I am, we are each guided by the wisdom of the loving presence. All of our next... Well done. Wherever forgiveness is needed, it flows naturally. Each and every heart is freed by the action of love. Harmony abounds in every relationship. I accept this as the truth for each and every one, manifesting from this moment forth. I celebrate the good that emanates from this awareness and embodiment of harmony in relationships. I release this word into the law that makes it so, and so it is. So you see, can you imagine every day for the next 30 days, setting regular scheduled time aside for you to dwell on something like this, to read something like this, to create your own one? Things are going to move. Other ways that you can immerse yourself in the prayer experience is you can call our telephone ministry, that's what you call, and speak to a real live person who will do a spiritual mind treatment with you, so you get used to it. Or you can visit the Grinton Chapel after service every single Sunday. I have no idea why that people aren't standing in line out around the building. Because I don't know how how do you manage without prayer support? You know, that's where I get judgmental. So, it's because it's such a beautiful free gift. I was like, wow, go get it. Or you could call that Dial a Thought, and here that's changed twice. Did you know it's changed twice a week? And there is an experience of somebody doing a spiritual mind treatment. And next Sunday, I will be here, and after the service, I'm offering a workshop on getting clarity in words. In other words, by the end of the month, you could have a total immersion experience of prayer, or you can be an observer. Either way is good. So to answer the question, why the topic, practice, practice, practice in 2013? Well, to get that answer, we have to turn to the conclusion of the textbook, where our founder writes these words. Together, in conclusion, what the world needs is spiritual conviction followed by spiritual experience. I would rather see a student of this science prove its principle than to have her repeat all the words of wisdom that have ever been uttered. It is far easier to teach the truth than to practice it. This is where we say amen. Amen. Isn't that right? That's true. Another way to say the same thing, and I repeat. What we teach is very easy to understand. So easy that it tempts us to think we know that we've got it. But now we have to look, do I do it? Very easy to say, God is all there is. Now let me do it in a conversation with my children. Very easy to say, we are one. Now let me do it when somebody cuts me off on the freeway. See? And he goes on to say in the conclusion, let's go on. But the practice of truth is personal to each, and in the long run, no one can live our life for us. To each is given what he needs, and the gifts of heaven come alike to all. How we shall use these gifts is all that matters. To hold one's thoughts steadfastly to the constructive, to that which endures, and to the truth may not be easy in a rapidly changing world, but to the one who makes the attempt, much is guaranteed. I sometimes hear the phrase, he or she is a practicing certain faith. When people of faith are being described, he is a practicing Catholic, she is a practicing Hindu, and so on. And I like that phrase because it conveys to me that this person is more than a Jew or a Catholic or Christian or a Hindu in name, that the application of their faith tradition shows up as a practice in their life that is as regular and as dependable as brushing your teeth ought to be. Is my hope that by the end of 2013 you will be able to say, I practice spiritual living daily, and that you will be able to give a clear and concrete example of what that actually means, what that does in you, and how through you that is making a contribution to a world that works for everyone. And perhaps you already have a daily spiritual practice, in which case I hope that the 12 months will provide for you a fresh look at some old familiar ways, loved ways of courting the presence of the divine in your life and letting it loose to have its way with you. Let us pray. There is one infinite loving presence that is at the center of life itself, deep within and all around all that exists. This loving presence guides and informs us with its powerful wisdom. Harmony is its nature, and all of life is its expression. It is the love of this very divine essence that is alive in each one of us and expresses itself through me and through each one of us. We are its love and its wisdom finding full expression in this world. So, in this prayer then, we declare and accept that we are guided by wisdom, that we are channels for peace, that all of our relationships are an expression and an extension of this beautiful, harmonious nature that is the Spirit of God within us. And so it is that wherever forgiveness is needed, it flows naturally. Each and every heart that we associate with is freed by the action of our own expansive love. Harmony abounds, peace prevails, compassion rules, and we are well. I release this word of law. I release this word of prayer into the law, the spiritual law that governs the universe, that makes it so, which is why we end our prayers together by saying, and so it is. I invite you to breathe in with me. And exhale.